You know what? If I mess up and if as a leader, I can say that to my team members, that helps deliver a message that I'm human, I mess up, we're going to get to the other side of it. And guess what? It's okay if you mess up too. If you're afraid of speaking up and you are an introvert because you're afraid you're going to say something wrong, it's okay to realize that people aren't going to think anything different of you.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Start, Scale, Exit, where we talk to SaaS leaders and IT founders and technical business leaders about successes, stories, and strategies, primarily directed to those in the software as a service industry. And today we have a very, very powerful voice, a very, very appreciated guest, Emily Carlson. Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
It is my absolute pleasure. So Emily has over 25 years of experience being a CTO. She has her own podcast, Powered by Authenticity, #1 best-selling author. What else can I say, Emily? You're very and also, if I'm not mistaken, you are also a coach. And you help also people in the IT industry, a voice for women in IT, in STEM.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you. That's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of is the work that I'm trying to do to pave the way for the next generation. I didn't have that available to me when I first started in the industry. And I think as a whole, we need to get better about making sure that women who are joining the IT workforce know that there's people out there that have forged the way before them, and they should not have to go through some of the same experiences that we have. So it's work that I'm super proud of.
Absolutely. And we're going to deep dive in that. But before we get started, Emily, I have a little game for you, okay? So this game is called Scale It or Scrap It, okay?
Okay. All right.
So I'm going to read to you a few trends in startups, okay? And
Okay.
something. And you tell me scale it or scrap it,
All
okay?
right.
All
Yep.
right. So let's start. Unlimited PTO,
Scrap it.
AI written job descriptions,
Scrap them.
camera on always,
Scrap it.
100% remote,
Keep it. Scale it.
scale it, AI generated content.
Ooh, solely AI generated. Scrap it. Polish. Use it as a resource. Scale it.
I'm with you. Excellent. Subscription toothbrushes.
I think we're going to go ahead and scrap it.
There you go. Thank you so much, Emily. That was just a fun game. All right, so let's deep dive into your journey. Okay.
Yeah.
And you've been a voice in helping women join the STEM force. Okay. So can you recall when was the first time that you thought technology? I mean, what was the first memory that you have of thinking, this could be a thing for me?
Well, so my journey into IT is one that I have an interesting story behind it. And it's kind of helped to pave my way. I in high school was told that girls from where I live do not become CEOs. And I kind of put that behind me, kind of let it ride for a little bit. I graduated high school and I had a child. So I had my son right out of school and I knew I needed to work. So I found a small computer company that let me bring my son to work. So when I was sitting at a bench assembling computers, my son was in his pack and play right next to me. So that was my first forte into IT. And I found that I loved applications. So I ended up going to school for it. And it's funny. I enrolled him in nursery school. I traveled 3 miles down the road and I enrolled myself in college. We did it on the same day together. So that's kind of how I found my way into tech. Later, as I grew up into the industry, I noticed a lot of times I was the only female in the room. So there would be a lot of men, and it's still relevant today. I'm still often the only female on a lot of these calls. And I didn't like the way that I was being treated. Even last year, I was on a conference call and I was the only woman and I kept trying to interject my opinion. So using Microsoft Teams, I did the raise hand feature.
Yeah.
And it took them like 9 minutes to realize that I had raised my hand. And then somebody said to me, "Oh, we think you did that. You should probably put your hand down. You didn't mean to do that, right?" I'm like, "No, I've been waiting a very long time to say something." And so I really do not want our younger generation to believe that that is acceptable behavior. And that's not just in tech, that's as a whole. So my purpose in really forging ahead in IT and trying to build my career is also pave the way so that things that I'm experiencing, I don't want my daughter to have to go through. So that's really kind of how I found my way into tech, was being a mom, and just trying to grow myself and at the same time protect and guard. And I hate to say it, but sometimes being a mom is like one of the most beneficial things I have on
It
my
gives you
tool. But
character.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so that's how I got into it. And honestly, I just, after a reduction in force and I lost my full-time job in August of 2022, I was like, enough. I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to do things my way.
Yes.
And so that's kind of how I've also kind of grown and tried to develop into something more as well.
So who told you that you couldn't be a CEO? Who told you that women are not CEO? Where did you hear that?
Yeah, that was my guidance counselor when I was a senior in high
Your
school.
guidance counselor. Okay, good job
Also
for
a
him.
woman, also a
Also a woman.
woman. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, sometimes these things are so embedded in the subconscious mind and people's minds
yeah,
that it's tough to break that pattern. So
yeah,
you're a pattern breaker. And Emily, when I read about your story, I mean, you're talking about IT, healthcare,
yeah.
authenticity. So usually these words I don't hear them in the same sentence. Authenticity and IT or healthcare.
Yeah.
So what is the message there? What are you trying to convey to these generations?
Always be yourself. I think the problem is, and I know even for myself, when I was younger, I would watch people walk into the room, and the people who were the most powerful and who had the most, attention given to them, you almost want to emulate that, right? Because that's what you want to be. And part of that sometimes means giving up something true to yourself, and that doesn't feel good. So you have to make the decision, do I want to lead and be the person that I am and authentically walk into a room, or do I want to emulate a behavior that probably doesn't make me feel good? And I think we're better leaders when we're true to ourselves and we're our authentic being. I look at situations where you're like, I messed up. If I mess up, and if as a leader, I can say that to my team members, that helps deliver a message that I'm human, I mess up. We're going to get to the other side of it. And guess what? It's okay if you mess up too. Let's just have a conversation about it. So I also help it believe, as a leader, it helps to build your credibility when people can say, she's not afraid to say that she made a mistake. She's authentically coming to the table to say, this is what I did, or this is what we should do. Really, like I said, not being authentic and not being true to yourself, it doesn't feel good. And, it just is not a healthy way to live.
Right. And what did you say, for example, many of us in the IT industry, even I consider myself an introvert. I mean,
Hmm.
you might not see that right now because I kind of have a personality for when I'm interacting with people. Okay.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
developed that a long, long time ago. But many of us in the IT industry are introverts.
Hmm.
And it takes also some energy to grow up, to scale up, to be noticed, to be seen. So how can somebody, project, how can somebody grow in this challenging environment that is probably sometimes created to encourage all those that are, extrovert and so on and so forth? How can
Hmm.
someone grow and develop while being true to themselves? What would be your advice to them, or your experience in that matter?
Yeah, I think it's fun. It's also finding like-minded people. So you're right. There's a lot of us who are introverts, and I was actually voted quietest in my high school graduating class, and now I'm on a global platform. But what I did is I found people who I was comfortable speaking with and learned how to develop those tight bonds and relationships in that way. And I think that's one thing that people miss out on right now, and is a great way to grow yourself from being that introvert to feeling comfortable about speaking up in a room, is because once you get to know people on that more personal level and relate to them, truly as a being and not like, something that they may not be, you're able to be comfortable and speak up. I think also we're losing the fact that people really are good at heart. And if you're afraid of speaking up and you are an introvert because you're afraid you're going to say something wrong, it's okay to realize that people aren't going to think anything different of you. It's okay to make mistakes. And I think that's forgotten. The other thing that I do think is very important is finding a network that you can belong with. So right now I sit on the board of directors for the WIT network here in Buffalo. And it's been really nice to find a group of women who are so like myself and in IT, and you can have that conversation. They also become a really good place to bounce ideas off of, and just people that you can go to and bounce ideas and have transparent conversations, and they'll give you that feedback. So I think it's also find groups of people who you really can relate to and just go and talk, and that's going to help you grow and get beyond that uncomfortable feeling as being an introvert in the room. Because I
Right.
feel that to my core.
Like that reminds me of, when you say, we have to go out and find a network. I belong to a couple of networking EO entrepreneurs organization. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
heard about it, and a few others. But you say we just for people, it's women in IT, right? Women in tech. Is
Yep.
that
It's called
right?
the WIT Network. So it
Women
stands for Women in Tech. Yep.
Women in tech. Perfect. And absolutely that reminds me when I read the T-shirt that said antisocial social club. That should be like one for me, finding a network that can support me. But you're absolutely right, because if we find like-minded people, we can be vulnerable even in
Yep.
those environments, share experiences with others, and learn how to grow in an environment that might not be natural
Yep.
for some of us. As a CEO, tell us a little bit, Emily, about what you do at your company, PBA Consulting.
Yep.
Can you
PBA.
PBA Consulting, right? Can you tell us a bit what is it that you do over there, and your story, and how did you do? I mean, you told us you were out of a job. You said,
Yeah.
"I'm not
Yep.
gonna stick with it." You decided to launch your company. How did you go about it?
Yeah, a lot of internal kind of dialogue about, this is the kind of the time. A very nervous spouse. It's not a great time to be starting a company. But, I really started it because I wanted to have an organization where companies could come to and we would realize that they're not a cookie cutter solution. So, while we do a lot in IT, the word IT and technology is a very large word,
Right. Yeah.
and there is no company does the same thing the same way, nor
Right.
would I want them to. So I really have started it on the basis of being a place where you can come to and tell me what needs to be done. And I'm not going to throw a playbook at you. I'm going to hear about your people, about your culture, about really what you want to accomplish. There's also no real just technology projects anymore. They're driven by business necessity. So
Absolutely.
I think one of the key components that I bring in is I want to talk to your business leaders. I want to talk to the people who are being impacted by this project so that I can hear their perspective on it. When we try to do a lift and shift from a technology project perspective, we're breaking somebody's workflow. And when we're breaking somebody's workflow, we're breaking that organization's revenue stream, and that prohibits their growth and ability to be able to provide for their employees. So I wanted something different. I didn't want to be a typical consulting firm. There's nothing wrong with those firms, and some have some really great ways that they can go about achieving project success. I just want that success to be a little bit more focused on the person component, and make sure that what we're doing for each of the employees is the right thing, that we're not inhibiting workflows, we're not inhibiting progression, and that everybody in that situation would grow. The employee, the organization, revenue. Just so that that's really how I framed my company and how I go about my day to day.
And you said something very, very powerful. You said, and it's true. I mean, many of us that grew up in the IT industry, at least I did, I grew
Hmm.
up believing that IT was in the center of the world, right?
Hmm.
But in reality, I mean, the business is the one that drives the IT decisions,
Yep.
right? Our podcast is directed to SaaS founders,
Yep.
SaaS leaders.
Yep.
Many times we try to build the best possible tool, and put the best possible functionality. And sometimes we don't take into consideration the client's need, the client business drivers. Even sometimes the clients are asking for a button, but in reality, they're asking for functionality that
Hmm.
solves them a problem.
Yep. Yep.
So how do you go about it? Particularly, are you focused in healthcare primarily, or you go across industries?
Yeah, we're primarily focused on healthcare. With that being said, we have branched out to a couple of other industries, still insurance, so still a regulated industry. I think is
Right.
a a good way to say that. Yeah, but primarily those two industries.
So what common patterns have you seen in health tech right now where you have to bring people together and say, listen, this is about the business? What are the trends or the common mistakes that you're seeing in these industries?
I think that one of the common ones in that it cross and overlaps industries is just not taking the time to understand the requirements. To your point, a button is not a button. And I think the problem is everybody wants to move so fast that they think taking the time to capture requirements is going to slow them down. When I keep saying spend so much time in that discovery and planning phase of your project and do the upfront work, the rest of it's going to go a lot quicker. So I think we're trying to move faster. I think we're trying to do more with less. And I think not taking the time to stop and put requirements into place and really understand both the business and technical impacts, that's where we're falling down. And I see that across industries right now. Again, there's been layoffs. There's a lot that's been impacting the tech industry. And because of that, people are trying to do more with less and just all these different things.
AI to leveraging AI.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. And leveraging AI, but AI still takes people, I mean, you can't implement certain aspects of AI without actually out a human being behind it, So we can use AI, like I said, polishing things. And there's different in healthcare, there's predictive analytics and ways to streamline certain aspects of healthcare with the use of AI. Or I think there's a misnomer that it does take people and people's time as you're spinning that up in an organization.
Right. So as a strategic leader, Emily, you've been an advisor, you've been a CTO, you've been in many places. So let's talk right now to the founders of health tech products. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine we have here a group of people, they're all health tech in some way or insurance tech.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to build their products or run their companies. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to find what their true problems are first. Let's not throw tech at let's not throw tech at it, but let's truly understand what their problems are. I do think tech will solve the problems, but I think first let's take the time, let's pause. What are you trying to solve? What's the problem that we're trying to solve? I think when we're also trying to solve problems, what are the risks associated with how we're going to go about this project? Is it a federal measure that we have to do? That's great. That's our what we need to get done, but what are the risks associated with that? So I would encourage them to, before we jump right in, to let's talk about what the problems are. Let's talk about what the risks are associated to the organization, to the people, to the industry. And then let's start to define and come up with what the actual tech is that we need to develop around it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, I have a very interesting question for
Okay.
you.
Okay.
So this section of the interview is called Mirror, Mirror.
Okay. All right.
So if you were interviewing yourself today, what is one question that, you wish people would ask you, but they never do?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh my goodness. Maybe why did it take you so long to branch out on your own?
Okay.
I think that, for a long time, I worked for a lot of consulting companies and I kept saying, well, what if I just did this thing on my own? And it took a jarring incident to make it happen. But, I would love to step back and, go back 15 years and say, why didn't you just do it before? Why didn't you do it sooner? You had the ideas, you had the concepts, you know that you love people, you know that you love tech, you know that you love bringing those things together. Why'd you wait so long?
So if you were to travel to the past and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself? I mean, because people would ask you would ask yourself, why did it take you so long? So now, if you had the chance to go back and talk to yourself, what would you tell you?
I would say it's not imposter syndrome. It's not that you're a woman. It's that you are that good. Go ahead and take a chance and try it out, because the worst that's going to happen is that you're not going to be successful and there's always another job. But what if your consulting idea took off? What if that idea that you had for a blog and a podcast actually took off? Again, I could go do another job any day, but what if it's not imposter syndrome, and what if you could actually just go and do? So that's
Beautiful.
probably what I would do. Yeah.
Now, in this same theme, and I loved it. If Emily from the future came today and talked to you, what would that Emily tell you?
That we know it took longer than we had hoped to have certain success moments that I'm trying to build right now. So along with my consulting firm, branching more out into speaking events and, being more of that thought leader in the industry. And, it's okay that it's going to take a little bit of time. You get there. So keep believing in yourself, keep putting yourself out there because ultimately it will come true.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. And that resonates a lot because I think for every single entrepreneur that's out there, including me, right? We want things to be done like
So
fast,
fast.
right? We come maybe from the corporate world where we have all tools available, we have support people, we have
Yeah.
everything. We're expecting to achieve goals, do things fast, and
Yeah.
sometimes we hit roadblocks. Then we need to go around, under, over, whatever,
Oh, yeah.
and get to achieve things. And ultimately, it's not as fast as we might want.
Yep.
Your message is extremely powerful. Thank you so much, Emily. So, by the way, okay, I would just want to say to our audience that this podcast is sponsored by Synthesis. And Synthesis, what Synthesis does is help launch, scale, or help you even with all the needs for your software industry. We have a SaaS
Yeah.
platform. Synthesis helps our clients to create or scale their platforms with reliability, responsiveness, and convenience. So that's just a brief message from our sponsor. Now, Emily, just a brief lightning round before
Okay.
we wrap up, okay?
Okay.
So
Yep.
three quick questions. Favorite book?
Favorite book. So it's funny. When I get asked this question, I feel like it rotates based on where I am at the moment. So I
Absolutely.
just read a book called The Coffee Bean, and
Okay.
it's a very simple book, but I have come to love it and appreciate its simplicity, but a very powerful message. So it's basically you can be a carrot, you could be an egg, or you can be a coffee bean. And when you're exposed to stress and heat and situations, what happens? A carrot gets soft and mushy. So you can let those conditions weaken and soften you. An egg gets hard in the middle. So it gets hard and that's, doesn't feel good. And do you want to have your personality be hard? Or like a coffee bean, do you allow the situation that you're exposed to bring on a form of transformation? So I think it's just a powerful reminder that no matter where you are or the situation or kind of that boiler pressure that you're under, allow
Beautiful.
yourself to transform into something more. Use that as a situation, as a moment in time, and know that you don't have to become soft or hard or any one condition. You can allow that to transform you into something more. So I love it.
Beautiful.
It's a
I'm
beautiful
gonna use
book.
this going forward, and it hits home. My grandfather used to have coffee plantations in Mexico.
Amazing.
I love coffee and love the analogy. Excellent. What is your most important daily habit?
Exercise.
Hmm.
Yeah, if I'm not, I've got a half marathon this weekend. I'm a little bit
Nice.
I've got an injury going on, so I'm actually very worried about, but I'm going to go out there and do it because I'm also raising money for a local heart association. So we're going to go out there and do it. But I feel like running and exercise, when you feel good and you can allow yourself that time just to, builds determination, it builds grit, it builds in that time to allow you to clear your mind. So I think it's really important for us to realize that we're holistic beings and taking care of ourselves do equal better job performance as well.
Beautiful, beautiful. And favorite app, AI or SaaS tool?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I have so many.
Name one. What would be your if you could only pick one? What would that be?
Well, if it's my favorite app, it's going to be my Starbucks app because it gives me exposure to coffee.
To the coffee bean. It gives exposure to
uh,
the coffee bean too.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, but I have so much, as far as like software as a service, it's so important to the work that everybody does, right? And so all of the SaaS products that we have available to us, I mean, there's just too many to name at this point in time. But yeah, the Starbucks app is going to have to be close to my heart because I do enjoy a good cup of coffee.
Beautiful. Emily, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, that's great. I'm on LinkedIn, Emily Carlson, and then also you can find me at poweredbyauthenticity.com. And there you'll find links to be able to contact myself, links to my book, to the podcast, to all of the good things.
Could you share very quickly what your book's about, your latest book?
Yeah, so it's called The Evolution of Leadership in STEM, and it is a collaboration book with about 30 other very strong females in the technology industry, where we share our stories of our work that we've done in STEM, and how as leaders we've had to evolve over time. I'm really, really thrilled to also say I've got 2 additional books coming out this year. One is a global STEAM movement, where I'm going to talk about podcasting and kind of how that's now developed into an art form. And then also just powered by authenticity. So a little bit more about myself, my company, kind of what fuels me to keep on going.
Where can people buy your book?
You can buy it from poweredbyauthenticity.com, or we are out on Amazon as well.
Beautiful. Okay, so make sure to your audience, make sure that you go search for Emily, purchase the book. And Emily, thank you so much for being with us today. It was very, very powerful. I always try our audience to take at least one golden nugget. If they can extract one golden nugget from this conversation, I got many. So I can tell you 2 of mine. I mean, I love the coffee bean concept. That is like one thing, like, are you going to develop your flavor? Are you going to bring the best out to the world when you're under pressure, or are you going to soften or harden? That was amazing. And the power of networking and getting closer to other people like-minded so you can grow. Those were my golden nuggets for today's conversation. Hope everyone gets their own. Remember, if you like the podcast, like it, share it, comment it with everyone else. For today, remember to start smart, scale with passion, and always be true to yourself. Emily, it was a pleasure hosting you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.